Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Tonight I want to talk to you about ways that you can better manage effect of a narcissistic relationship or effects of a relationship with a narcissist. As you know, none of us at the beginning of a relationship have been contemplating and sitting and wishing that I want to find a narcissist to be in a relationship with. Obviously not. So at the time when you enter a relationship with a narcissist, you have no idea, no intention, no wish or desire to be involved with any kind of a narcissistic behavior of a so-called to-be partner. But it does happen that later on you realize that you are in a relationship with a narcissist. Now, what happens and why you continue, that's another story for another time. However, right now we want to talk about you have been involved in a relationship with a narcissist and now you have broken it off, or you are in the process of breaking it off, whether it's a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, whether it's a husband and wife relationship, in a process of divorce, in a process of breakup, trying to get out of it, trying to deal and manage with the negative situation, with the communication after breakup intention, whether it's a negotiation between husband and wife in the separation negotiation, that you're trying to go through those steps with someone who has been a narcissist in the relationship, a negative force, or whether it's in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, and whether it's a man who's the narcissist or the woman who's a narcissist, either way, you need to have certain understanding and certain techniques in order to be able to better manage that situation, and whether it's a negotiation for the separation, whether it's a understanding and ability to manage the breakup, whatever it is to make you free from this bond, from this conditioning that you've received, which you never really knew that you're being conditioned, but through the narcissistic behavior, a relationship with a narcissist, one unknowingly ends up having been conditioned to live and endure all that what is involved in a relationship with a narcissist. Many psychologists have talked about this, and of course, one of the very well-known psychologists, positive psychology, by name Martin Elias Peter Seligman, has discussed this concept of learned helplessness, which I will make another video in regards to this topic, is about believing that there is nothing can be done. Being conditioned that regardless of how much you try, nothing can change. So you learn to feel and be that you're helpless. This is when you're convinced, or you have convinced yourself, that there's nothing that can be done, and for the reasons that we'll explain in a few minutes, that you feel it is best to leave it as it is because there's nothing you can do about it. So it is called learned helplessness. Somehow you're convinced or convince yourself that because nothing has changed, or because it's maybe more convenient, or it's a pleasant outlook for the others when they're looking from outside to your life, and so you won't end up feeling that you're in a failure choice or situation. You end up just simply giving up trying to change things, or the narcissistic person is so careless or in control of certain situations, aspects of your life, whether financial or whatnot, that you simply don't see any changes being made, and eventually, because now you have children or you have other investments involved, time or whatever else it might be, you feel that you should dump this unchangeable, and therefore you feel helpless. You will stop trying. I would like to mention this particular topic of learned helplessness in this segment of our discussion as a point of reference in what I'm trying to show you. Of course, what I'm saying is not from the research of the psychologist Seligman. However, this particular point could also be applied to what I'm trying to show you. Now, remember this topic, which we'll talk about in another video. Now, you will see that what I'm about to talk to you about, managing a breakup or separation from a narcissistic relationship, can also be helped by understanding this brilliant topic of Dr. Seligman's learned helplessness. Now, getting back to our discussion, when you are in a relationship that involves one narcissist person in that relationship, as we talked about, you never intended to be in a relationship with a narcissist. But you ended up being there, and in order to save or make a success out of your choice, which at the time you had no idea it's a bad choice, it's not a choice you want to take, but you were fooled and thought that this is an okay choice because you could not see the signs or you could not be informed about what you're getting into or what the real characteristics of the person that you're getting in a relationship with. And now that you have endured it, you need to understand why you endured it and need to understand how you can actually win yourself free out of this conditioning that you've received all throughout this relationship. One of the reasons that you endure a narcissistic relationship is because you have pride in your selection. You consider yourself someone who doesn't make mistakes. And when you come to understand that you have made a severe and gross mistake of being involved in a narcissistic person, you wish to change that situation to what it should suit your choice rather than breaking the situation, because breaking a relationship to you seems to be a personal failure. In order to avoid to consider yourself, your choice was wrong, which is egoistic not to want to admit to your choice has been wrong, and the fact that you want to not consider yourself as a failure, you want to turn the situation around by enduring, by being diplomatic, by trying to understand, and you turn into someone who's being pleaser of the narcissistic partner, and eventually, before you realize it, you get involved in the behavior of the three circles in the striatum, the midbrain basal ganglia, which has the goal-finding circle, reward center, and habit center. They all go hand in hand in the striatum, and you end up doing things in order to get the pleasant behavior of the narcissistic partner, which gives you a certain kind of a pleasure or accomplishment, which then the reward center secretes dopamine, and after a while, you will be looking forward to receive that dopamine to feel you've accomplished and you're being liked and you feel good about yourself. You won't let go of the relationship and end up feeling good about yourself. You end up staying in a relationship and hoping for the pleasant behavior of the narcissistic partner by getting that dopamine, which means through pleasing the bad behavior, through pleasing the expectations of the narcissistic partner. And every time that you be awarded by a pleasant behavior or a satisfaction of the narcissistic partner, you feel as you have succeeded to some level. That becomes your encouragement to continue this charade and this endless and hopeless hopefulness, and you continue and endure the relationship. To the point that the second center, which is the reward center, has been feeding you with the dopamine, with what we just talked about, leads into having conditioned the third center in the striatum, which is the habit center. And staying in the relationship, pleasing the partner, narcissistic partner, becomes your habit. And you can't break the habit now. It's not that you don't understand you're in a narcissistic relationship. It's not that you don't understand you're with an asshole. It's the fact that you actually cannot get out of it because you're now linked this whole being in this ocean of shit because of your habit having been formed, and you're conditioned to do this and continue swimming in this garbage because this is out of your control, because habit center has taken over. And you don't even know why you're in there, you just know that you gotta be there because that's your habit now. And as Professor Anne Grable has been a pioneer of the understanding of a cluster of behavior to the brain represents as one behavior. Such as if you ask someone, as Dr. Schwartz explains it, if you ask someone who just went to a store and asked for a package of a cigarette and took the package, paid for it, opened the cellophane wrap, tore out part of the package, took one cigarette out, put it on his lips, and then flicked the lighter and held the fire 2 inches from his face, which is not something any human being wants to keep a fire 2 inches from his face, and you say, "Sir, do you know that you just went to a store and paid for a package of cigarette, open the wrapping and tear it apart, put one cigarette on your lips, and then flip the fire close to your face?" He says, "No." I just know I'm smoking. The cluster of all these movements that took place for him to smoke is not recognized by his brain. It's only recognized as one action, which is smoking. Now, for you in a narcissistic relationship, you're not realizing all the things that you're going through to keep this together. All you think is that you're just doing what is your habit now. So being involved in a narcissistic relationship is not about that you like it or you love it, because you sooner or later realize that you're in a real deep trouble and a bad relationship. But you keep staying there for the reasons of second center in striatum, which is the dopamine center, reward center, and you get used to getting those satisfactions, periodic satisfactions of this narcissistic person and feel good about it, and that becomes the encouragement for you to continue to keep getting that dopamine and satisfy your daily life to some extent and endure it, because you don't want to consider yourself a failure, because you don't want to admit that you made a big mistake, and you don't want the family and everybody else that at the beginning paid so much love and respect to you and to your partner and accepted him or her, and now you gotta tell everyone that he or she is an asshole. You don't want to go through all these things, so you continue being satisfied with that little bit of a dopamine that you receive, and eventually, as we talked about, it influences your habit center, and lo and behold, before you know it, you're deep in it, and you don't even know why you're in that relationship, but you feel you gotta be. Why? Because it has become your habit to stay in that nonsense. Now, having talked about that, let's talk about when you have realized and you've decided that I gotta come out of that shit, and you're in the process of negotiating your breakup or your divorce or your whatever agreement it is that you need to go through it in order to free yourself from this relationship, whether legal or social. You need to realize this. Every one of us have an image of ourselves, about ourselves, in our own brain. And in the same way, you have an image about your partner in your mind, which represents your partner's character, behavior, and the way you have conditioned yourself to see him or her. Now, this image have been created throughout this relationship. And because of the reason that we just talked about, you're not wanting to admit to your mistake and all the other reasons that we talked about, you have somehow created this image and somehow accepted the fact that this is an okay relationship. Especially the big part of this image that you have created about your partner in your brain has been created at the outset, at the beginning of your relationship, where you were not clear about the narcissistic behavior and all the negative behavior of your partner, and it was still in the fooling stages that you felt everything is hunky-dory and he or she is a nice person. And on that basis, you created certain good memories, certain good values, and you created a certain image of this person, about this person, in your mind. That's the image that you've been having a relationship throughout this ordeal or this journey. Now, the image you have of yourself in your mind about you and the image you have of this partner about him or her in your mind have been having a relationship with. And all these hooplas and all these satisfactory things and all these conditioning things have been happening between that image and interaction with that image and your image, and you have created this whole relationship based on what you think of yourself that you should be and what you think that partner really is image-wise in your brain, and nothing to do with the actuality and reality of that person or actuality and reality and expectations of you from a good relationship. So now that you're in the process of breakup or in the process of divorce or whatever it is, you cannot defend yourself because you have a conflict of interest and conflict of image. You have been conditioned to think about this person as a good person because that would have suited you and your family, your reputation, whatever you had in mind when you actually chose this person and you thought this is a good person at the outset, at the beginning. And therefore, now that you're actually seeing the actuality of this person, you have come to a conclusion to sever this nonsense. You cannot see why you can truly fight for your rights and free yourself, because the image that you're using to fight with is the same good image they created through all this time, which you force yourself to be satisfied and to be pleasant, to be pleasing, and to manage this whole thing for the reasons that we talked about. So the first thing you got to do is this: to see the actuality of the person that you're trying to separate with. Whether it's a divorce or legal negotiations, or whether it's your relationship with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. You need to see the actuality, the beast, the garbage, the nonsense, the criminal, the negative personality of this person as they actually are and have been all along, and not recognize the old image that you had created out of the few selected good memories and characters, and instead replace that image at this stage of the game to the reality and actuality of this person. See the person for who he or she is, and then you can fight with that as you would look at it as an enemy, and not trying to fight the enemy that you know it is, but with the image of a friendly image that you had created from that person in your own mind. So number one thing is to see it as it is, not replacing it with that pleasant image that you had to create it for yourself to endure this ordeal. Once you create this image of the monster that he or she is, then you can easily fight thoroughly and get your right on what belongs to you, what you're entitled to, and feel good about it, rather than being conflicted in this thing that is so important to you to free yourself. And for that, you need to have a good fight. To have a good fight, you got to see the enemy as it is, not to give it a good light and put it in a good light that you cannot recognize the enemy as it is, and think that this is that good person that you had convinced yourself to be, which makes it difficult for you to fight and to win what is right for you, and you will always be in this conflict and become very uncomfortable and stressful, and you won't get to negotiate the best deal for yourself. I hope that can help you out in separating yourself and freeing yourself, and have a great and balanced and happy life again. In the meantime, think deep and judge well. Be good to yourself and to the others, and I'll talk to you soon.